My name is Britney Lane. I am a child and family clinician at Mental Health Center of Greater Manchester. My platform is focused on sexual assault education for survivors, as well as resources and making sure that the community understands where they can go and how they can handle sexual assaults. I had a very movie-esque like childhood, I'd like to say. I grew up in a very suburban town in Rhode Island. I was in dance. I did soccer for a little bit, but then I scored on my own goal, and my dad very quickly pulled me out of soccer, and we decided I was a dancer. And I danced for 17 years. I did ballet, tap, jazz, lyrical, gymnastics. I was competitive, so I did 20 hours a week in the studio, and then every weekend we had competitions. And I really loved that. It was a way for me to kind of express myself outside of the classroom, because in the classroom I was an AP student. I really spent all of my time and effort in school. I did academic decathlon, I did student government, all the things that you kind of see like the overachiever do, and I definitely felt like I had to be an overachiever, not for anybody else, but for myself, so I was a perfectionist. My family is amazing. They are the most supportive people in the world. My parents would follow me to the ends of the earth and support me in whatever I wanted to do. And it was just a very like white picket fence childhood, and I loved it. When I was 18, I decided I wanted to live in a big city. So I really looked at like New York schools and wanted to be away from my family a little bit. When I realized how expensive New York schools were and how far that actually was, I decided to maybe stay closer and do Boston. So I decided to go to Emmanuel College in Boston. I decided to study psychology because I was in therapy for so long as a kid that I saw what my therapist did for me, and I wanted to give back to those kiddos. I feel like I had a very typical college experience. I went to parties, I met lifelong friends, I live with my college roommate now. It was less than a mile from Fenway Park. Felt like it was made for me. It was just a really amazing experience to go outside of Rhode Island for a little bit, not be with my family, and kind of learn how to be an adult and the things that I wanted in life and the things that I didn't. And where I grew up in Rhode Island, we didn't really have a lot of diversity. So being in Boston, meeting the different kids from the different socioeconomic statuses really opened my eyes to a lot of things. And the reason I continue with community mental health is because I was able to experience that in college. I had graduated college and I thought I had beat the statistics of sexual assault. I was 23 years old. I was living with my parents at the time. I was feeling like I was in the clear. I was working 2 jobs to make extra money, and then when the assault did happen, I kind of went into this hole because I had social workers helping me. I had, numerous therapists, and to me, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm the therapist, I'm the social worker. I don't need that because I am one. So it was a really confusing time for me, and it was a lot of healing and spending time on myself. When I felt like I was ready, I was listening to a podcast because my therapist told me to listen to funny things, like do the opposite, very like dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT kind of stuff. And I was listening to a funny podcast, and this woman named Amanda Nguyen came on, and she is the CEO and founder of an organization called RISE. RISE works to pass bills in each state, a bill specifically called the Sexual Assault Survivors Bill of Rights, which outlines 10 very basic rights that every sexual assault survivor should have. And she was talking about how they passed it federally in 2016, which was amazing. And I heard all of her success stories, and I felt in a very low place, and I needed a success story. I needed justice for what happened to me because the justice system couldn't do anything for me, basically. There wasn't enough evidence, there wasn't enough to press charges really and have this man convicted. So I decided to take it into my own hands, and I applied to do their state program, which is volunteers come in, they teach you about how to pass a bill, they teach you what the bill stands for, how to connect with state senate and house sponsors to get this bill passed. I really focused on my home state of Rhode Island. They taught me everything I know about passing bills, and I just felt like it gave me my voice back. I was able to testify in front of the Senate and shared my story. I was very blunt and told them the details of what happened and how I felt like I was treated unfairly and how we need to change things. I didn't have any education when it came to my sexual assault. The only way I knew what to do was Law and Order SVU. Like, it was literally like, what would Olivia Benson do? So I wanted to be able to provide education and resources to people in my community who may not have that. And this is what this bill does. It really focuses on, you shouldn't have to pay for a copay for your rape kit, which I had to. You should have a lawyer present when you're making a statement to the police. You have the right to a female officer taking your statement. All of these things I feel like would have made my experience a little easier, and it's never an easy experience, but it would have kind of eased and given me some comfort. So being able to pass this law in Rhode Island, which we did, which was fantastic, and RISE also does a lot of work with the United Nations. So I helped them with their resolution bill. And this was a really cool experience because I got to have the outfit I was sexually assaulted in at the United Nations on display as part of an exhibit. The whole point of the exhibit was to stop survivor blaming. It was to end that question of what were you wearing, because what you were wearing doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. It doesn't mean you deserve to have something bad happen to you. That really, instead of putting it back on the survivor, we're putting it back on the assailant. And so I went to the Rhode Island forensics, I pulled out my outfit and sent it in because I felt like if I was never gonna be able to press charges and have my rape kit run, I'd want my outfit to mean something, and I'd want that experience to mean something to me and to other people. This exhibit featured 5 outfits from each geographical region that the United Nations represents. On top of those 5, there's, I believe, 103 other outfits in this exhibit. And it went from a diaper to an army uniform, to an EMT uniform, to a sundress, to a winter coat. The exhibit is traveling worldwide. I mean, it was in Geneva, it was in Sweden for a while. I'm not sure where it is exactly now, but it is more well-traveled than I am, for sure. And it's really cool to see how many people are impacted by this. It was a really cool experience to be able to testify in front of UN representatives, and it gave me the voice back that I didn't know I lost. It gave me that sense of justice that I needed to feel, and it was a really big part of my healing journey. When I was 19, I decided that I was gonna really commit to pageants. When I was a kid, I had watched College and Tiaras, and that was like the show that I came home to watch every day after school. And I told my parents I really wanted to do pageants, and they always told me that I had to pick between dance and pageants. And so I stuck with dance because I knew I was pretty good at that. And when it came time to kind of be financially on my own, dance was done, I was in college, and I really needed something to do besides school. So I said, you know what, we're gonna do a pageant. And I did the Miss America system at first. So that was my very first pageant when I was 19. You can see like my headshot has no spray tan. Like, it was very just like refreshing. It was just a baby not really knowing what she was doing, but wanted a place to feel heard. And that's what the pageant stage was for me. Pageantry as a whole has helped me build confidence, build social skills, build interview skills, because I had social anxiety for a really long time. And pageantry kind of helped me break from that. It gave me a safe place and like safe community to really express what I think is important. And going into the Miss USA organization, which I'm a part of now, I felt like I really had a place to talk about sexual assault awareness and education and resources. And I'm able to use my story of what happened to me and my experience to make change in the community. And that's why I love pageants so much. Best Buddies is a really big partner with the Miss USA organization. The joy and the engagement that they bring to inclusion is unmatched. So I was paired with Casey, who's 23, and she's fantastic. She's such a joy. We immediately connected. We connected over the Red Sox and glam and glitz, and she loves sparkles more than I do, which is very hard to compare, but she is such a glam girl. When I told Casey that I was Miss New Hampshire USA, she immediately said, I want to do a pageant. So together we found the Miss Amazing pageant, and I got to watch her compete. I was her buddy for the competition, so I was along the way with her the whole time. I did her makeup, we practiced her talent, and it was just a really cool thing to see her be crowned as Miss Amazing New Hampshire, because I saw how much it meant to her, I saw how much it meant to her family, and that inclusion and friendship, it's a joy for me to be able to give that to her and her to give that back to me. So the Aplomb Project is based out of New Hampshire. It's a woman in Dover, and she has her own art studio and art exhibit. She takes a group of survivors of sexual violence and paints them. I met Danielle, who's amazing. I met her through a woman at Rise, actually, and she was from New Hampshire, so I said, of course I'm gonna reach out to Danielle. And when I just wanted to get involved with her and see how we could really raise some more awareness, she said, I wanna paint you. So I sent in my music choices, like what my playlist is, the colors that I see strength in, and she paints the survivor's strength, like the strength and the bravery behind them. And I was able to meet amazing survivors of childhood violence, of adult violence, of violence in the military, and share my story and hear others. And it was really cool because she got to know us. So Danielle sat down with us, had lunch with us, and got to know our stories and got to know who we are and how we overcame and how we turned a negative into such a positive thing. I was able to choose what I was wearing for my painting, and I chose to wear the gown that I was crowned Miss New Hampshire USA in. And it was a really cool full circle for me because after my assault, I never thought I'd get back on a pageant stage, especially in a swimsuit pageant. I never thought I would be confident enough to do that following my assault. So wearing that gown, seeing the strength that she saw in me and the belief that she had in me in that painting was just, I can't even thank her enough for what she's given to me through that painting. I tell every survivor that there are options. There's more than one, and there's resources that want to listen to you. I just felt very alone following my assault. I didn't know anybody else who had been through what I was going through. Sexual assault's a very taboo topic that we don't like to talk about. So that's really why I like to use my platform in social media and my year as Miss New Hampshire USA to share that this happens more than we know and that we'd like to talk about. So to other survivors, I would say, we hear you and we see you. Specifically, I hear you and I see you, and you're not alone, and there are ways to heal.